Well, back to the scene of the crime. There's the speedy dry on the oil that leaked out of the headstock. And nothing new to report, pretty much where I left it last. Difference is I've got my my stairs cleared, so I've got the plywood out of the stairs, so I was able to go outside and bring down my jack. And actually, it's really cold today, so there were leaves frozen to it, but it's been down here long enough now, it's thawed out. So I got a pool of water and some leaves in there. We'll clean that up, and the idea here is that I think I can get that underneath here and still have room for a 2x4 piece. So let's see how that's going to work. Alright, so I've got the jack centered underneath the bed. I don't have it all the way down as close to this end as I'd like because I've got a 2x there in the way. So, but let's just see. There's no reason why this shouldn't pick this up. Alright, I got it moved, got it up high enough so I could reposition the block there. So now I'm going to just ease it down onto the end block. My plan to use the floor jack here to jack the headstock in is not working out. I've got those blocks in there right now, so I can't get right underneath the headstock, so I'm just kind of up close to it. But as I'm jacking it, what's happening is it's actually tipping the lathe back. You can see actually this foot now is up about ½ an inch, so I don't like that at all. Huh. I don't know if I just need to push this in further, but I'm actually I'm more than halfway under that end, so that's telling me that this thing must be really heavy right in the front over here. Nearest I could figure that's what's going on. Well, alright, I moved it, I moved the jack under this side of the bed, so that's going to really concentrate the lifting force on this heavier side. I'll try this one more time. If it still wants to tip that way, then I know I can't go with this as a plan. That sure looks like it's still... Oh, that's a little better now. Yep, I think that's working. That's working. Couldn't fit a full 1.5 inch thick 2x piece of material in there, so I've got a 3/4 inch thick board, which I'm not too crazy about. I wish I had something stronger in there. Looking at that leg's still not coming up. Or is it? Oh, I see. No, it's coming completely off because it looks like that leg has now broken completely free of the lathe, of the bed on that side. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's not even being held on anymore. Yeah, that's gonna be a problem. Oh boy. Get a shot of that. Okay, so the only thing that's keeping this this part of the foot with the lathe is the fact that it's got that lever going through it on the other side here. Back side. So I'll show you that. In other words, this is the pivot for this lever that comes across that I've got already unscrewed here. So the reality is, if I pull on this, oh, there you go. Yeah. Wow. So it snapped. It snapped right where the two bolts go through up into the bottom of the bed. Yeah, in other words, I didn't just crack it. I broke it 7 ways to Sunday. Well, I think this is as good a time as any to call it quits tonight. I wasn't really planning on starting on this tonight. I just was curious to see how badly broken that is, and now I got my answer. Well, it's another night, and I'm down here looking at this thing again. When I was looking at the pictures I took last night of the damaged leg, it occurred to me that I had slid this out, and last night when I did it, it didn't even occur to me that I shouldn't have been able to do that. How did that linkage right there on the inside get disconnected from the bottom? So I've got to get a good look at that, because I may have broken that also. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, there's a cotter pin out here, right here. I'm going to take this pin out, and I'm going to take this rod off the machine. It's already unscrewed down this end. I just got to take my zip tie off, and then I'll be able to turn that whole leg over and get a good look at the linkage there. Oh, finally got a little bit of good luck. Looks like the way that's made is that's just a U-shaped top. So in other words, there must be a rod down below there that engages this slot. So what ends up happening is this faces up and actuates a pin or something that engages that slot, so that when you go to lift the lathe off of this leg, I guess, this will just release from it. Now I'm also noticing this rod, I don't think it's supposed to be, you can see it's exposed in there, and it looks like what's happened is this has worked its way off of the rod some, and it looks like underneath all this dirt and grime in here right there, there's probably a set screw in there that just has to be loosened up and just been slid back over, but I'm going to leave it like that for now until I clean it up. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move some of this stuff out of the way off the floor here and break out the shop vac, clean up the dry sweep that I put on the oil spill. There's a lot of this debris here, which is just dirt mixed with grease that fell off the machine. It's all over the machine, and I want to try and vac all this up so that I'm not stepping in it constantly and tracking it upstairs, which is why I wear these horrible shoes that are completely trashed. In case anybody was wondering, they're my my basement slippers, I call them. And also I just don't want it tracked all over the place. Well, that'll be good enough for right now. I didn't want to fire up the shop vac. The kids just went to sleep. School day tomorrow, so try not to make too much noise. And also the shop vac I have down here needs a new filter in it. I think I'm up to, I don't know, seems like people keep giving me shop vacs they're throwing out that work perfectly fine, so I end up with all these shop vacs. Anyways, so now I've got the floor cleaned up enough here. I'm going to try and get my eyeballs underneath there and get a gander on the plan. I want to try and get that flat roll around dolly that I tried using near the beginning of the move, and I ended up taking that out because I was worried about it failing because of the weight. But I think now, that was when I was putting it under the legs for the chip pan, the floor legs. So that was the weight of the legs, the chip pan, and the lathe. I think now, down here on a flat, even floor, I think I'll be able to use that dolly underneath here, and I think it'll take it. Oh, speaking of even floors, I got to show you this. Yeah, these are the divots that were left behind in the floor from where when the lathe slid off and those feet slammed into the floor and ended up cracking that foot assembly. You can see if I put a straight edge across it just how. You see how deep that is. Pencil tip for reference there. And this one's even worse. This one's a bigger hole. Well, glad no feet or hands were underneath that when that happened. Taking another look at this leg piece that I got out, it's very little consolation at this point to see it, but you'll see how dry that is. And then I noticed right here, this has got dirt and oil in it, but quite a bit. I actually think that was already cracked, and I can see why that might be already cracked, because that's just between the hole and the edge there. That's a very small area, so that might have already been cracked. But that's still, I mean, that may have been cracked for 50 years now or more. and it took somebody like me to come along and crack it like this. Well, did get that dolly underneath there, and it's bowing quite a bit, but it's holding. Now the trick is, I've got this furniture dolly. It's the only other dolly I have this small. The dollies that I made, of course, were bolted to the legs, so I can't really use those. Plus, they're way too high. Even though this is actually pretty high that I have this now. I had to put it that high because I've got to lift. I had to lift this high enough to clear the blocking I've got underneath the other end there. The blocking I've got under that end has to be tall enough to keep that lever assembly that sticks down from between the ways there from the headstock protected. So anyways, I got that on there now. So I'm thinking maybe if I put a board across that, reposition my jack here, lift this end up. Guess I'll run the carriage back up towards the headstock, get some of the weight off of this end. Alright, lifting this end up high enough so that I can get this dolly with a board on it underneath the foot's not going to happen. So I decided instead I'm going to put the dolly here in the inbound to the leg. Hopefully that'll be stable. But now my problem is I've got to jack this up again to get those blocks out from underneath this foot. And of course the problem is that that's where I want to put the jack. So I'm going to put the jack in the middle as close to this end as I can. Hopefully it'll raise. Now normally what you do is you twist this handle and it releases the jack, right? Well, my jack's been outside so long now it's got rust on it. It's a little stiff, so I have to twist it hard, which causes the valve to release quickly, which causes the load on it to fall a little quicker than I would like. So what I'm doing is I'm just giving it a little tap so that I'm opening that valve real slow. Just to the point where I start to see. There we go. It's going down real slow, but that's what I want. And hopefully that's going to bottom out on that board before the bottom of the feet hit the ground. We're real close. Still got over an inch, I think, under that foot there, but there's going to be deflection on this. Hopefully this 1,000-pound dolly, or so it says it's rated for, can take it. It's on there. What do you think? Think it'll roll? I think it will. Alright, I'm going to leave my blocking underneath the end there where it was. And that's only about an inch off the ground, so I'm not worried if this dolly fails. That'll settle right back down on the ground. This is the more unstable end, so if this dolly were to fail, I'm going to keep that blocking under there to protect that lever that's sticking down. And I'm going to leave this just like it is for now and call it a night. And then if it still looks stable and okay tomorrow, then I'll clear a pathway and I'll start rolling this over towards the I want to get it underneath the main supporting beam in the house.